From number 10 Downing Street, the Prime Minister makes the momentous announcement for which the world had been waiting.
Yesterday morning at 2:41 a.m. at General Eisenhower's headquarters, General Jodl, the representative of the German High Command, and of Grand Admiral Dönitz, the designated head of the German state, signed the act of unconditional surrender of all German land, sea, and air forces in Europe to the Allied Expeditionary Forces and simultaneously to the Soviet High Command. Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
Hi, my name's Warren Foote and I'm chair of the East Wickham and Welling War Memorial Trust. And I'm here today in the beautiful Danson House in Danson Park with Francis Greer, who at the fantastic age of 104 is believed to be the London Borough of Bexley's oldest living war veteran. So Francis, you were born in 1920, I believe, in Deptford?
Yes.
What are your earliest memories from that time?
Well, not a lot of Deptford, just
Yeah.
being there. I think I was about 2 years of age when we moved to my grandmama's. I mean, they had a little cottage in Greenwich, and there was already 2 uncles still at home, Gran and Grandma, and there was my mother, my father, my 2 brothers, elder sister, myself, and the younger sister. No, the younger sister wasn't born until we'd been living there for about a year or so. So that's how we happened. So we're all in this little cottage in Greenwich, and there was 2 uncles at home. So the 2 boys went in with those in the back bedroom upstairs, and there was one in the front, a huge bedroom, where there was Mum, Dad, us 2 girls. So that's as far as I know. But I mean, we were there quite a while because Dad must have gone to the council to complain about the overcrowding. And we were given a house on Bellingham Estate near Bromley. And it was a brand new house, a council built one. And we had an inside toilet, a bathroom, and the boys had a bedroom, so us 3 girls get in all in the one bed. So if you fell out, you went round and got in the other side. So that's how we were brought up. But I mean, from there, as I say, we were like in heaven after being what we had, because we had an outside toilet in that grandma's. And I mean, it was very, very, living, it was very sad.
Because you can recall aspects of the Great Depression, I think,
Yes.
because your dad
Yes.
lost his job. Just tell me a bit about that.
Well, as far as I can remember, I mean, everybody made good, like as best they could. They made something out of nothing in those days. I mean, nobody went without shoes or something on the table, which was very, very difficult for Grandma and for my mum. But I mean, I think everybody did what they could in those days. But compared to, well, you can't compare. We won't go back there. So, as I say, we were there for quite a while. When he was at school, my two brothers were at work. I mean, one worked in an iron foundry, I think he was 16 then. Another one worked in a shoe shop. So everybody had little jobs, but a mere pittance. They didn't earn a lot. And then my younger sister went into a factory. And because as I became 14, I was in a factory. And we were still on Ballingham Estate. Because my mum decided she would like to go back to Deptford Angle, New Cross. So we went into a little house down there, and my two brothers by that time were married. And then my sister, she got married quite early. But as I say, it was all go. It was a happy time. Because when I was 14, we were down in Deptford, and I worked in the biscuit factory.
So how old were you when you left school, Frances?
I was 14 years of age.
What did you
And
do
at
then?
that time, I'm just trying to think. Yes, we were still down there in Deptford. And I used to travel, by a tram. All where the factories were near the river.
This is Peak Friends. You
Yes,
travelled to Peak
yes.
Friends.
And then Mother moved again. We went back to Catford. So I used to have to get the tram to New Cross, walk down Clifton Hill Road, catch a little bus to the docks, and then walk through the GOM, it was called, to the factory. And you had to be there by 7:30 in the morning. So that was something to do. Thinking back, I mean, now the kids wouldn't want to do that, would they?
They wouldn't. And so you started work at 7:30. What time did you finish?
About 5:30, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So you had that journey back.
That's a long time. And did you do that? Was that 5 days a week?
Yes.
You worked 5 days a
Oh,
week?
yes, yes. It was hard work. Because at a certain age you were put down into what they call the bakehouse, where all the biscuits were made. When I was in the factory, the work was very hard and I was never tall. And it set up a tummy problem. So the doctor said, "Oh, Mrs. Clark, your daughter shouldn't be doing that." So Mum took me to the doctor's, which cost 6 months old money. And he said, "Oh, Mrs. Clark, whatever your daughter is doing, you will never make old bones." So, as I say, we went back to Catford, and Mum knew the lady who was manageress in Marks and Sparks. So I was taken on there. I would have been 17. So I was there all the time until the war broke out.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I'm interested about your experience at Marks and Sparks. What did you make of it there? What were they like to work for back then?
They were very, very good, very good. And I was always on the food counters. We used to wear white aprons and like, you know, you were on the stage. And do the Charleston.
Well, actually, I want to talk about that because a bird tells me that actually one of your hobbies back then was dancing.
Yeah.
What are your earliest memories of dancing?
Well, I met my husband ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
That's how we came in contact. But I mean, before that, my sister was in the dance troupe. She used to do pantomimes and everything. But I mean, I was the middle one, you see. I was one in the middle, so I didn't get the chance of that. Like piano lessons, sixpence for like half an hour. I mean, I could tinkle the ivories by ear, but I could never read music properly. But that was an experience that I really was sorry about.
Yeah.
Because my two brothers had a little jazz band as they got older. So that was why I was into the music.
So you were always into music. So were you dancing before the war?
Yes,
Did you dance before the war?
yes, yeah.
And where did you go? Where did you dance?
All the ballrooms around, yes. And we used to belong to a Sunday club, but my father never knew because that was a dreadful thing, doing something like that on a Sunday. So you had to belong to a club to be able to go and dance. But I mean, it was all the same crowd. You used to go from one to one. You used to change partners, which was great. And then the war came and everybody went their own way. But Fred came and found me afterwards. I couldn't run quick enough.
So did you meet your husband Fred before the war?
Before the war. But we never had any contact, you know, because he was abroad all the time. He was a Monty man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up obviously through the 1930s when Europe was preparing for war. What are the recollections you have about that time, about the threat of war?
Well, it wasn't a very pleasant idea because my mother said, you know, like that she knew all about the First World War and what had gone on and how hard it was for her brothers, because she had two brothers. One went down in a submarine and the other one was shot down. And then the nephew...
This is in the First World War?
Yes. Yeah, so that wasn't pleasant. You know, when she used to tell us stories about it, we used to think it was awful. But I can't remember that one. But when the real war came, and I was a volunteer to go into service. But apart from that, you know, I can't remember, you know, what went on. Because being in a family, brothers got married, you know, sister got married, and then there was just my younger sister and I at home. So, as I say, Mum used to be moving. I've got it down somewhere, how many houses we had to move to. And Dad used to say, if there were caravans in those days, I would have been quids in.
So where were you living when war broke out?
At Catford, with Mum and Dad. And then, as I say, they came round all the stores because all the men were going, so they wanted the girls to take their place. So my younger sister and I, we volunteered. I think there were 7 of us from our store, but only 3 got through, and Elsie and I did, which was my sister.
So when you said that they wanted women to replace
Yes.
the men, doing what?
Well, anything. A lot of it, if I hadn't have done that, it would have been into an arms factory where they made all the guns and stuff.
So what prompted you to decide to join the Women's
Well,
Auxiliary
my
Air Force?
father, he said, you don't want to do that, girls. He said, go into the fire service and learn how to drive. gosh, that's times that goes through my memory. We didn't want to do that, no. So we both volunteered because we went into the RAFs.
Why did you not want to learn to drive?
Pardon?
Why did you not want to learn to drive?
I did,
Oh, you did?
yeah, but we never had the chance. You know, I mean, wherever you were put in the forces, you just went along with it. Because we were in a store, you know, like a shop of some sort. So I was into parachute packing, and likewise for my sister.
So you joined the WAF. Soon after signing up, Francis, did you actually go along? Yeah.
Oh, about a month or so. And then they send you like your travel things, your little case with your little bits and bobs in. And I was stationed at quite a few places.
Where did you go to first? Where did you
First
do your
was
training?
Bassing Ball, near Royston, near Cambridge. And I was there, it was a peacetime station. So everything was spot on. I mean, the section was wonderful, because all the parachutes should hang up, the high ceiling, you know, and all that. And then there was 3 NCOs at that time when I first went in there. But gradually, after a few years, the boys all went. So it was all women.
So you were 19 years old when you joined up,
Yes.
and you were posted to Royston. You'd never been away from home before.
No.
How did you feel?
Well, we never realised what it would be. The experience of leaving home, leaving mother. Dad was there and the dog, because the dog used to warn Mum when the area went, you know. So, I mean, we didn't get home that often, but you had a leave after a certain time, but you went all through your training first. I mean, you had to go into a lane at Gloucester, you know, where you were in civvies then, and then you passed on and got all your uniform. That was a performance. Nothing fitted, you know, so you used to have a laugh, you know, does that one fit you or does this one fit you, you know? But I mean, we made the best of everything, you know what I mean? And that was in Gloucester. And then from then we were posted to different places.
Can you remember feeling homesick?
No. You never had time because there was such a lot going on all the time. And as I say, Elsie and I, we never met up. It was a whole 5 years. And I cycled from one of my station where I was, and she was posted quite near, and I bought a bicycle from one of the Irks that were going to be posted. I mean, one with a basket on the front. So I said, well, how much do you want for that? 10 shillings, that was how much you got paid. I said, certainly not, I can't afford that. Anyway, I got him down, so I got this bicycle. So that I did a few miles in there. So I went and saw my sister at Oxford, because I was in the Cambridge.
This is Elsie.
Yes. So, I mean, but we never met, only that once during the war. And people said, well, didn't you write? I said, no, people didn't have time to write.
So what about friends? Did you make friends easily?
Yes, lots of friends.
Tell me
and
about
then
some of
because
your
you got
friends.
posted, sometimes you had somebody go with you, but not always. Because I was never very big, and we used to have a kit bag in those days. I mean, it was bigger than me. That's why I've got good muscles. But I mean, we used to get there, you know, wherever we had to go. But I was really posted in quite a lot of places.
So how long, you did your basic training near Cambridge? How
Oh,
long
no,
did
not
the
all that long, not all
long
that
did that
long.
last?
Because you had your uniform, and then you sort of had before you actually went to your actual posting, you had all that training beforehand. you know, like square bashing, and the exercise in the morning, in the fog or whatever.
What were you like at drill? What were you like at foot drill?
I used to love it.
Did you?
Used to love it because we've got to go out in the cold. Washing cold water we did often. Never got a shower. And if you wanted a bath, that was something. There used to be a black mark round the bath, and you weren't allowed to have any more than that water. And none of the doors were locked. Even the toilet doors weren't locked. Because people used to just open the door, you know. I mean, you sort of lost all your privacy, really. I mean, all girls together, you know. But it was an experience that, you know, you would never have had in your life.
So, did you make some good friends when you were training?
Oh, yes, yeah. And there was one called White. Ivy White, because everybody had a nickname, and she was Chalky White, and there was me, Nobby Clark, Nobby, so I was often called Nobby, Frankie and Robbie, that was me, not Francis ever, so it was nice to be called Francis when I got home.
So you made these friendships when you were doing your training?
Yeah.
When you were posted? Were you posted?
Chalky used to come with me very often because we were more or less the same ages. You see, older.
So they would post you together?
Yes, yeah, which used to be very good, you know. And you used to get a weekend leave sometime. But I mean, it wasn't worth going home because sometimes we were right up the north and all round, you know. So you was always given your travel allowance, which wasn't a lot in those days, but I mean, it was something.
So tell me about your first posting.
My first posting was at Passington, and that was really my love. You know, I really got into that because I had a cinema, swimming pool, all that entertainment afterwards. So and we had what they call an anteroom, where the RAFs all used to meet. You either do your knitting, play records, or have a dance, or whatever was going on. Just unwinding. And then, because never billeted on the actual station. Because I think that one was just what they called circuit and bumps, where they'd go around the, you know, and just land, practicing, taking off and coming back.
And what was your role there, Francis?
Was actually in the parachute section. So they used to come in for their harnesses, and the pilots used to sit on their parachutes, and the others used to have it on their chests.
From our first hurried formation of a parachute branch of the Army, this has developed into a powerful spearhead of attack. Girls play an important part in the work of this newest arm of the fighting services. The task of packing the parachutes is largely carried out by WAFs. No need to stress the scrupulous accuracy which is required. Carelessness in packing means a valuable life thrown away.
So there was quite a lot attached to it.
And you would be packing?
Yes,
packing the parachute.
Did that and inspection. But later on I was in ARD, Aeronautical Inspection. But to begin with, as I say, you know, it was every parachute had a logbook. So if you only did a little bit to the quick release books or anything, your name had to go on it. So you were responsible for that parachute, which I thought was a good thing. Fortunate, I never had anybody that bailed out, so I didn't get a meal out. As I say, it was quite good. You know, I enjoyed that station. And then because the Yankees came in, whatever year that was, I can't remember.
That would have been 1941, 1942.
Something like, yes. So the whole station was cleared for the Yanks to come in.
So were you still there when the Americans came over?
Yeah. But we weren't at the station. Everybody went to other stations. And we went to a wartime station, which was just built up ever so quickly.
Where was that?
That was at, let me think, Droitwich, near Birmingham, somewhere. There. Because everything was cold water, a wooden shack. After being in a built place, you know, you felt that bit.
So Francis, you've talked about the drill and how you enjoyed that. How did you get on with the discipline, being in the military?
Fine. I mean, I was actually a good girl, really. I mean, you know, you went out in the evening when you had 5 minutes, and normally there was a country pub, but that used to run out of beer. You know, and there was an army camp further up the road from where we were, because at one place we were billeted away from the station, and that was in like a manor house, and that was near Cambridge again. So, I mean, you know, you try to make things convivial, you know, and there was another couple, and we had, at one time when we were in this big house, there was 3 of us in this little room, and the others had it was a huge mansion like this. Now in a room like this you'd have about 10, 12 beds in. See, well, we were fortunate, we were upstairs. We had our own wash basin, we felt like ladies really. But as I say, it's how you took everything as it came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have much contact with the American GIs?
No. We used to meet them in the I'm just trying to think where it was. In the town, you know, when we used to hitchhike, or else sometimes they used to take us to this station. They'd have an evening where they'd entertain so many WAFs, because the officers were always with us. We weren't left on our own. But I mean, if you'd have seen the table with all the food on, and you think, you know, your poor mother's living on 2 ounces of cheese or something, you know. But I mean, it was a bit OTT for us, you know, to see all that was going on. But as I say, some of them were gentlemen, but the others, you know, were a little bit over the top. So we didn't mix with those.
Much opportunity for dancing?
Yes. I did a little bit of jiving, but I would never dance like they're doing now. It was waltz, foxtrot, and the quick step. They were the main dances, where your feet were on the ground, and that was lovely. Really loved it, really did. Yeah. And my husband, as I say, we danced well together, and that's how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any experience of dancing with the big bands?
Yes, the American bands, when at these evenings, used to take us in the truck, you know, sit either side of the truck. And but when we used to get in there, you know, and they're very polite, all very polite. So, I mean, you know, they used to sort of size you up, and then they'd come and ask you to dance. You know, and then after that had an interval, but they had beautiful bands, really beautiful. You know, like, what's the American one? Played.
Glenn Miller.
That's him. Just like that. And I could have sat all night and just listened to the band, you know. And then they'd take you and you'd have a meal and then come back after the interval. Then we get back into the truck, officer counting, see if you were all there. So there was that discipline always, which was a good feeling sometimes.
You felt you
some
were
of the
looked after.
girls, pardon?
You felt you were looked after?
Yeah, yeah. I always loved dancing, I don't know why. If I could do it now, I think I would. So that was that. But I mean, we used to enjoy the evening out, really, out of the way, you know, from regimentation, really. But as I say, it was what you made it.
Francis, did you have any experience of the Blitz or German air attacks?
When I went home on leave, yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes, that wasn't very nice, not very nice at all, because there was a bomb dropped and there was a park behind my mum's place where we lived, and they had the barrage balloon out there. You know, that used to go up to try and stop the planes coming bombing London, but they used to come up by the river. That was what it was. Especially a moonlight night. They didn't like a moonlight night. So, I mean, I've experienced that, which it wasn't very nice. And we used to have the old air raid shelter right down the bottom of the garden, covered in all earth and all that. But it was so, what can I say, when you're shut in somewhere, frustrating. But I mean, before that, when the war first broke out, I was still down at Marks and Spencer's, and I bet any lie, as soon as we just go in and have our tea, the siren would go. So you automatically walk up the garden path with your tea. And then if you could all get in together when you were all at home at once, it was a bit difficult because condensation if you were in there overnight, but that didn't happen to me very often when I was at home, so we were fortunate in that respect, very fortunate, yeah.
And when you were in the WAF, you must have been worried about the safety
Yes,
of your
bad
family.
parents. Oh yes, yeah. But as I say, touch wood. And then I had a brother who lived further along in Leyland Road in Catford, and his in-laws lived there, and he was in the Navy. One particular weekend I was there, well, for a week I was at home, and he wouldn't let me go back to camp. That was the only time I missed going back. But I didn't get Jenkins because I mean, it was for him being away and me being away and meeting. So I did go a little bit that way. And also when we were first posted, that was what I was going to say. Because when we left, Mum said, "You will look after your little sister." I said, "Yes." So that's what I did. When we were ready to get posted, I went into the office, stood there. "What can I do, Clark?" I said, "Well, my sister, can I claim her, please?" So she said, "How old is she?" I said, "She's 17. "Oh," she said, "she's old enough to look after herself." And how I didn't go hands together. Thank the Lord for that. But I didn't, I just stood to attention. I said, "Thank you very much." So when we got our actual posting after training, she went to Oxford and I went to Cambridge. And that, as I say, that's the only time I saw her, when I cycled to Cambridge.
In 5 years?
To see her, yeah, amazing. So that was the outcome of that.
So when you were serving, how aware were you of the conduct of the war, the progress of the war?
Well, you used to get the tail end mostly, you didn't get it all. But I mean, sometimes when you heard of bombing and all that, especially when the boys all went over that time, I can't forget now when it was. But you know, all those little boats went over to bring their fellows back.
From Dunkirk?
Yes, that's it.
Ships returning, ships of all shapes and sizes, manned by sailors home from the hell that is Dunkirk. Since these pictures were taken, we have all heard the full story from the...
Yeah, I mean, we got tail end of all that sort of thing that used to go on, but we never got the real meaning of it, you know. But as regards discipline, it was good, absolutely good. And there were some girls that they were called ground sheets because they were always on their back. So, I mean, that was, you know, nothing to do with us. Yeah. But as I say, it's what you made it again, you know. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I wouldn't. And because discipline, I mean, was an absolutely wonderful thing. I think now they should, all the children that are getting into trouble now, discipline. Make them do so long in the army, hard, because that discipline makes you appreciate what you've got in your body, what you've got in your head. It's wonderful.
We're here today partly to commemorate the 80th anniversary
Absolutely.
of victory in Europe.
Yes.
What are your recollections about that time, the end of the war?
Well, it was sad, very sad for people who actually lost people. And also, I think again, people felt sorry in lots of ways, but they didn't show it always.
Sorry for what?
They just go back and as though life goes on, which I know it does. But in some ways, I think there was a lot could be done for it. I mean, names on, like when we came to that lovely service at your church, I shall never forget that. It was very emotional and I really enjoyed that. I really was. It really, you know, got into me and brought back memories, you know, like of all my uncles and aunts, you know, from Greenwich, because there were a hell of a lot of them, as you'll gather, and because their families. And because as time went on, one of the uncles had a son that was shot down over Nijmegen in the Wellington bomber. He was 20. See, little things like that, it's still in your mind. They're talking about things.
Where were you when victory in Europe was declared?
I was in the forces.
Where
was I?
based?
Just trying to think. I was up north, in the big place. I've got it all down somewhere, but anyway. And because we didn't have to do the parachutes then, Chalky and I were posted to this place, and it was like a maintenance unit, you know, maintaining lots of things. And yeah, we were packing comforts for the troops. All the girls had knitted and put little notes in. It was quite touch him really, so we were packing them up to sort of send them out abroad who were out there still. So that was another job we did.
So can you remember celebrating when victory was declared?
Well, went to the NAFI and had a shandy, which wasn't very nice.
And that was it?
Yes, that was it. And sang all the old numbers.
Have been under fire. London certainly had as much right as anywhere to celebrate victory, and London certainly did.
How long after the end of the war did you get posted?
Not too bad for me, it wasn't. But my sister signed on another 6 months because she befriended a flyer who did 3 operations, bombing, and that was all they were allowed. They sank a submarine and got whatever it was, and they got married after the war, like myself. So it all worked out fine, really.
So how long was it after the war were you demobbed?
Oh, let me think. I came out, I think, in 40... No, I think it must have been... I've got my pay book somewhere. It gives you all the details. Can't remember, sorry.
Okay. So you married your husband Fred in 1947 and you knew him before the war but not well.
Yeah.
When did you start to get to know him well?
Well, he came, I was at Marks and Sparks then, and of course the hours then were late. 8 o'clock Friday, no, 9 o'clock Friday, 8 o'clock Saturday. And my friend on the other counter, she said, "You're going to be surprised, there's somebody outside waiting for you." And I thought, oh yes, because we used to pull one another's legs joking. So I went out, and of course it's Fred standing outside. I said, "Hello, what do you want?" "Can I see you home?" And that was the beginning of that. So we courted a while. And then we decided, because my sister said I got married before and Dad didn't have a lot of money. So we had a barrel of beer because he belonged to a CIU club or something. So they had a barrel of beer, which made the wedding really, because everything was still on ration. That's a problem. But I had a white wedding and I had sometimes I had a pretend cake over a little cake. As I say, it used to be funny at times. But as I say, I was very, very lucky.
So I think Fred was posted overseas during the war.
Oh, yes.
He was in the army,
yes,
I think.
Right with McKinnon.
So did you have any contact with him at all through the war?
No, nothing. Nothing at all, no. Kept in touch with his mum. Yeah, he went right the way through to Italy, the big bomb and everything. But he never talked about it, which was sad. Mentioned in dispatches twice. So, and funnily enough, when I got married, I lost the first one, had 2 boys, 7 years in between. And the young ones had 3 sons, the other one had 2 sons. So I had 5 grandsons. And one of them, the eldest one, he went into the army. Remy. So he's done Afghanistan and all that. And the younger one, Tom, he did for 5 years. But 20 years in the army. He's out now, and he's got married again. He's got 3 boys. All boys in our family.
So, after the war, when the war had finished and you were demobbed, you went back to work at Marks and Spencer.
Yes.
And so the time that you mentioned before, when Fred met you at the door, that was after the war, and that was the first time you'd seen him.
Yeah, all those years.
In 5 years, more than 5 years.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't overcome, really. No, I wasn't. You know, I don't know why, but I was glad he was home, naturally. But then we started meeting at dancing and going out to cinema and that. And then we thought, because he was a brainy fellow, I'll give it to him there. His mum went out to scrub doorsteps to keep him at school till he was 17. So I think he had a lot of love for his mother, you know, because his father was on the piano lines, so he wasn't home. So his mum was mum and dad, but he had a sister older, so that was their family. It wasn't a big family, so that was that. Sad, really, in that respect.
When you look back to those war years, what are the overriding memories you have?
Say that again?
When you look back to those war years, what are the overriding memories that come into your mind?
Oh, the good fellowship we had.
Friendships.
Friendships were lovely. You know, and it was quite a lot of sincerity with all the girls. We used to have a lovely laugh, but nobody got into mischief in those days. You know, you were too busy working. Your mind was working or training or doing something. And the outcome, you never had a lot. The food was good, but it's the way it was cooked. And I'll tell you the first experience of me going into the mess. There's all these long stools or whatever, wooden tables, big urns, 2 big urns, because you went up, and because it was all sloshed on, you know, just take it or leave it sort of thing. So I went and sat down, and what did I do? Sat on the end of the seat, because it went up, because all the Irks, as we called the youngsters, well, it went up and they were all cheering. Oh, I felt about that big. It taught me a lesson, though, not to sit on the end of the stool. And then I took from the actual urns, one was sugar and one wasn't. Well, I didn't know that, you see, so I went to the first one. Oh, it was like drinking syrup. And to think again, my mum was, didn't have a lot of sugar because it was all still on rations. But we had such a laugh at different things, it's silly really, but it made us laugh.
And did you keep in touch with your friends?
Yes. There was 2 or 3 of them came home when I was married. I used to have them come have a meal, 2 or 3 of them. And one married a New Zealander, the flyer, because you know what happened, he didn't come back at one time. So that was sad. But she did go out to his family in New Zealand and stayed there, but she didn't live out there. She came back to her mum in Norfolk, which was a lovely family. So when I used to have leave, and Joe was on leave at the same time, we used to go up to her home in Norfolk. Yeah. So I used to, get around a little bit, which was nice.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So this year, you're 105 years old, and you'll get a birthday card from the King. I think that makes you one of only a handful of people in the country to have a birthday card from both the King and Queen Elizabeth. How do you feel about that?
Wonderful. I feel honoured in a way, and I get a bit emotional. To think I'm fortunate enough to have my health, and I can do a job for somebody else. I'm full of love, that's the word I want to give. You know, and I'm so lucky to have all of my lovely friends, and they really do appreciate what they do for me.
And I'm afraid I must ask you this standard question, but what do you attribute your long life to?
Just do good, not a bad one, do a good one, and just help people where you can. I mean, I've had a good family, but like everybody else, they've got too much on their plate, you know, to sort of come and visit sometimes. I mean, the eldest one is in Peru. He's been out there 20 odd years. Now, see, he was divorced, had a big contract because he was a civil engineer and they were building a dam or something out there. So, of course, he lived as a single boy or single man, and that's what happened. But he had two lovely sons, that's a couple of my grandsons. So that made me and my husband sort of take them over because his wife didn't have any family. So that made us very close. And I'm still in touch with her now. It's amazing.
What advice would you give to anyone aspiring to live to 105?
Well,
How should
just
they
take
achieve it?
life as it comes and do what you can while you can, you know. And if you're fortunate enough to have good health, well, I'm lucky in that respect. It's just my poor old feet. I think it's all the dancing over the years. And I always say, oh, I do wish I had long legs. It's never come about. I think it's a bit late now.
So Francis, just to be clear, you had two sons. How many grandchildren and great-grandchildren do you have?
I have 15 great-grandchildren at the moment. Yes, because I had 5 grandsons, right? And they nearly all had 3 children, boy and 2 girls. Because from then, there's no great at the moment. So the list is getting longer, I think. But it's lovely to see them. I mean, they all grow up. But the thing is, they always come with on their, you know, and I say, have you come to see Nanny? They say, yes. Oh, we love you, Nanny. You know, and then they sit down, they're going up conversation. And I want to know how they're getting on all at school. They're all doing very well. I mean, the eldest grandchild, he would be 22. Yeah, 22.
Francis, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. The time has just flown by. Thank you for that. And thank you for your service and everything you've done.
Thank you. Don't take me crying, please. Thank you.